Just imagine any show, the last show you went to, if you knew that every single thing that was being done on stage was the responsibility of the person, in fact, doing it.
You can't absolutely replicate the past now. Of course you can't. We're too well fed, you know, we smell too nice, all those things. But we can make discoveries about then that will help us understand and convey those texts better now. When the Globe was built, and then the Blackfriars Theatre in Virginia were built, these amazing laboratories for practicing early modern staging had been created. But in a way, they created the laboratories before they created the questions to put into them. And I think I was lucky because I had quite a lot of questions I wanted to explore, and there were groups of actors and spaces that would experiment with them. So amongst the things that I was interested in were what sort of texts did actors receive, how long did they have to learn from them, and what would performances look like if they were put together from the kinds of scripts that actors had then, rather than the kinds of scripts that actors have now.
It's a simple thing. She looked at how much time do people have to rehearse, how might they have rehearsed. And then she's a wizard in the library and would find every clue she could that might suggest how people went about remembering, kenning their parts, how much time they might have had to be together for that, and any clue she could get as to how, in fact, the work got up there.
And so what was interesting for me was that actors in the early modern period were only given their own lines and a cue of the last 1 or 2 or 3 words before each of their lines. So in literary terms, I was very interested in analysing that strip of play given to an actor. But in practical terms, I really wanted to see what it was like when performances were put on in that way. And excitingly for me, now in Stanton, Virginia, there is a yearly Actors Renaissance season where the actors put on plays, having learnt just those parts. They don't have a director.
But ultimately, unless it's a role as large as a Hamlet, I have very little idea of what the full picture of the play looks like. I only know my own journey. And it's a very exciting way to work.
Theater had something very specific in my mind. And all of that just got blown out of the water as soon as I saw it work. You might hear something different tonight, like you'll be really invested in your scene partner, and suddenly you'll hear something different which informs how you say your next line, which might inform the rest of the play.
I remember doing a production of 'Tis Pity She's a Whore. It was the second show in the Renaissance season I had ever done. I didn't know the play. And of course, there's a bit of a leap of faith there, right? You might ask the actors not to read the play, but of course it's available and one could read the whole script if you felt anxious and needed to do that. But I was game and ready to go. So I didn't read the play. I had no idea about it. I'd never seen a production of it. And I thought, well, that's perfect. I don't know what's going to happen. And I was handed the role of Hippolyta, the lusty widow. I didn't know that at the time. I don't call myself a lusty widow as Hippolyta. Somebody else does. I had to learn that in front of an audience. And they had heard all these things about me before I entered that I had never heard because I wasn't in that scene when other people were talking about me. So I was never part of that rehearsal or sitting around at a table reading it. And I came on stage and I felt such anticipation and hostility from the audience. I thought, I think I might be the villain. I had no idea. And it struck me as a very real conversation in life where we don't hear what other people say in another room, or we don't know the inner thoughts of somebody else's perspective. We really have only our own perspectives. And to suddenly be confronted with what somebody else thinks when you believe that you're right all the time, as I think we always do, you know, we try to justify our actions all the time and go through life thinking we're good people, and suddenly you discover that somebody disagrees with you and you didn't know, and you have an audience to witness it and is rooting for you to be the bad guy. It was very exciting.
My first book was on rehearsal practices, 16th to 18th century, and having written that book, the company in Stanton, Virginia got in touch with me, primarily Ralph Cohen got in touch with me and said, we're experimenting with our actors, we're doing some of the things you wrote about, would you like to visit? And I said, you know, I'm honoured and thrilled, I'd absolutely love to. And I did visit, and from then on grew up a very, very productive and exciting relationship. Whenever I thought I'd discovered another thing, I'd try it out on the actors, and sometimes they'd tell me, you know, it can't quite have worked like that. Or sometimes It would just be very exciting to see research turned immediately into practice and then into a production. So if I can give you an example, I was very interested in the way that actors were given texts on stage of letters or proclamations or songs or anything. They were given the physical text on stage so that they didn't have to learn it off by heart. It cut down on the number of things they had to learn. So I tried this out with actors, and the actors in Stanton told me that those texts sort of needed to be in their own handwriting, as it's very difficult, cold, to read someone else's handwriting. That's actually as stressful as learning the thing off by heart. And that came to be a very useful thought to me, that I was kind of, oh my word, these plays, I think that makes sense, that they were differently inscribed, and that inscribing a text would be a way also of learning it a little bit, so that if by mistake you were given the wrong text, at least you'd know what its gist should be.
Oh, see, all the things I learned in the 50s and 60s about words like unity and theme, they're gone. Because we sort of imagine them in that. And audiences will take care of that. They will find the theme. Oh, they will find the unity. They'll see that. But that's not what our actors are working on. They're working on their moments.
It certainly was the case when I was younger, that people were a little bit scared of the theatricality of theatre texts, and they were afraid that that undercut their literary value. I think thought has changed on this matter as people have realised that you can understand the literature better if you understand the staging better. And not only that, but that you can close read a text against staging. You can close read, instead of traditionally simply close reading words, analysing words, you can analyse words against the space for which those words were written, against the actors, against the gestures, against the rehearsal methods, against everything. And you come up with something vivid and dynamic, and you also understand the text better as a result. I get to see productions that are crazy and exciting because they're full of actor choices, and that have a sort of exuberance because the actors own that material and they've chosen to do what they do. They have a creativity and an exuberance, and also a sort of tightrope walking kind of terror, because things can go wrong in productions like that.
There's this matter-of-factness that's there, and an audience feels it. And the audience knows that their show is going to be different the next time. We have repeaters who come back because they know it's going to be different. Now, one of the most interesting things, I think Tiffany really loves this fact, is that opening nights are jammed. And do you know that in Shakespeare's day, first nights cost twice as much as other nights? It's because audiences knew that it was really special. These guys are flying by the seat of their pants. They're doing the best they can under all these trying things. And I guess there's a little bit of the NASCAR thing, will there be a wreck? But the great thing is to see what a great professional does after that. How does a great professional recover from that? And those are moments that you don't get in other theaters, and they are precious.
Imagine you're in a sports arena, and we all know what the rules of the game are, and we're there to watch the home team. And in this case, in theater, there's only one team on stage. We're not competing. So you've got the entire audience, or the fans, watching the home team play. And we all know, the audience even knows what the rules of the game are. But whether or not they'll succeed and make the shot, we don't actually know. They might fail. But what becomes exciting is trying, making the extraordinary, trying to make the extraordinary goal, or obviously I'm losing my sports metaphor in my own ignorance, but trying to make the extraordinary goal or the extraordinary shot is what becomes exciting. And rather than saying it's a good thing or a bad thing to succeed or fail, you actually redefine your relationship with failure and with shame, and it becomes instead exciting to go out and take a risk.
So an audience watching a conventionally rehearsed and directed play watch in a sort of safe way. For one thing, they sit in the dark and they watch something that will be perfect. It's very, very unlikely to go wrong. And so they watch in the same way that they watch a film. And indeed, a carefully rehearsed play is trying to rival a film. And I think that's a shame, because a play won't win against a film in that respect. A film is, more visually spectacular than a play is. If you watch a play put on from actors' parts in an early modern way, it won't be crisp and perfect and clean and careful. You will be sitting in the light, you'll see the actors, they will see you, because that's the nature of early modern production. And you'll see them trying to work out things about timing and blocking while they're doing the play. And you'll see the extraordinary excitement when something clicks together and really, really works. And you will feel that excitement. So all the things that in a conventional play you read about when you read the director's diary, the wonderful discovery that happened in rehearsal 12, which you've seen a faint echo of, you see it actually happen on stage in front of you.
Without having a director who's often your partner and then disappears after opening night, but you're still trying to preserve that partnership and honor the direction, you have only yourselves to look to. And so you end up with this incredible sense of ownership, and therefore the success is all the sweeter. But it's also it's such a community experience, because the audience every night is, again, this incredible variable. They're the scene partner, but they're different every single night. So the show becomes different every night.
If I could see Richard Burbage actually perform Hamlet, Hamlet was written for the actor Richard Burbage, how amazing would that be? But also, might it be disappointing? Acting then was designed for the people of then. And as I say, when we work and when we think about acting then, we're not thinking about it in order to replicate everything. We're thinking about it in order to learn how we can enhance productions now by using bits of then that still work.